What's going on, everyone? About 75% of the S&P 500 closed down in the red today, and as we can see by looking at today's heat map, the heat map doesn't look as red as you might think. The big tech powerhouses like Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, and even Tesla had some really great days and just held the market up in a pretty good way. And while this week is a short one due to the holiday, it still does have a lot of potential to be a green one and a good one. And we have a lot to talk about going into tomorrow, not only because the man, the myth, the legend, Jerome Powell's coming back, but we also have a lot to talk about related to Tesla as they're finally starting to move in like a, momentum-filled way. We have some interesting things to talk about related to Roaring Kitty and his latest new stock. And we even have some pretty exciting market stats going back with many decades worth of data. So, Tom, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's not waste any time and let's jump right into it.
Yeah, and as you can see, the overall market was pretty lackluster today. It only went up 0.21%. Whenever you go look at some of those big tech stocks today, I'm like, wow, like these moves were fantastic. Like we saw some great moves out of Apple, Tesla, Amazon, like you mentioned. Whenever you look at the intraday charts, they were very, very strong as the day went forward. But some of these, I guess, slower companies kind of held the market down, like McDonald's, Comcast, Starbucks, some of the healthcare stocks, even like Home Depot, some of those types of stocks didn't do the best today, but those tech stocks really did very well. And we'll definitely talk about Tesla a little bit here in a little while. But the first stock today, Mike, that we really have to hit on is Chewy, right? Roaring Kitty. He ended up taking a position in Chewy. And as you can see, the move in pre-market was pretty exponential. Now, it's a little bit weird because it fell off so much that it ended up down in the red today, down 6.61%. But initially in pre-market, Chewy popped up 30%. That is one hell of a pre-market run. So there's definitely some big news with Chewy, with Roaring Kitty and this new position, and looks like he picked up around 9 million shares here.
Exactly. So I'm sure many of you already know who the Catman is, Roaring Kitty. Basically, he was the main guy behind this GameStop crazy squeeze situation. But he recently just announced that he has a 9 million share position with Chewy, which equates to a 6.6% stake in the entire company, and it's worth around $245 million as a whole for the position. And as Tom said, the market really liked this to begin with, but then I think reality set in, and then investors realized that Roaring Kitty might actually be the kiss of death, and the stock started to fall off. So that kind of hurt to see because Chewy's one of the stocks that I own for the long term, and I know that it has been just blasting in an amazing way over these past couple weeks. So the stock is still up in the over the past couple of weeks, which is great to see, but it has just been so crazy volatile in the short term. And one thing that I thought was very interesting is that, as we know, not only did Chewy fall, but also GameStop. So, like, what we've seen in the past, like, whenever Roaring Kitty would, you could say, announce a giant position or, just take some sort of major action in one way or another, normally the market would move with his intended direction. But now it's starting to do the exact opposite. Like, when Roaring Kitty, let's say, has a bullish thesis on Chewy, instead of it not only rising up but holding that ground, it's doing the exact opposite now, which I thought is very interesting. And on top of that, Tom, Roaring Kitty's actually starting to get sued as well.
Yeah, he is. There's actually a lawsuit coming out. Apparently, they're looking at the pump and dump scheme that he tried to pull on GameStop. It's obviously arguable, right? Like, was this a true pump and dump that he tried to pull off? And, whenever you look at the timeline of how he posted things and etc., I don't know. There might be an argument there. There might not. I guess that's what they're going to have to decide in the court. But yeah, it looks like he's getting sued, Mike. There's like a class action suit here coming against him, and that's going to be very interesting. So we'll have to keep our eyes on this overall situation with Roaring Kitty. And, Mike, we always talk about him, right? And everyone's always like, who is this Roaring Kitty guy? He actually had to put on the SEC filing that he was not a cat. I thought that was one of the weirdest things I ever saw somebody ever clarify on a filing like this.
Interesting, right? But all I'm going to say with this Roaring Kitty lawsuit is if he does, you could say get found guilty, I hope Nancy Pelosi also has a lawsuit coming to her as well, because she's been, playing this stock game in a way that is much more suspicious than Roaring Kitty ever has. So either way, I'm very interested to see how this ends up, because if Roaring Kitty does end up in a bad position, I want to see Nancy Pelosi next in the queue for a lawsuit. But either way, keep a close eye on Chewy in the short term. There's a lot of volatility with it. I think it still has a lot of good long-term potential, but in the short term, it has a lot of momentum-driven movement, which is a good thing. But you just have to be willing to play both directions with this one, given its increase in volatility. So again, keep Chewy on the radar. But another stock that is moving in a pretty big way and that's actually holding its ground is Tesla, believe it or not. So this stock had some of the best movement in the entire market today as it closed up over 6%. So Tom, what is the situation with this one?
Yeah, so it looks like Tesla's going to be having delivery numbers come out, and investors are very optimistic about these delivery numbers. And I'm actually kind of I was pretty surprised to see Tesla run up from this. They've been seeing a decrease in numbers over the past couple of readings, and I think that it's very interesting whenever you talk about that with Tesla, because what do you over the past couple months, what do you hear about with Tesla? Demand's falling, right? But I don't know, maybe they'll surprise. These numbers will end up being better, and I'm really glad to see Tesla shares pop up above 200 today. I thought that was amazing, but these delivery numbers are going to be pretty important. So it looks like that the analysts are actually expecting deliveries to total around 436,000, which is pretty insane to me. That estimate would be down 6.5% compared to last year's 466,000 deliveries. So overall, that's not good, but it would be a 13% increase compared to Q1. So maybe things are getting a little bit better for Tesla. We'll have to see how the numbers end up coming out, but it's going to be a huge focus point for this stock tomorrow. And it's right around that $200 mark. It had a great breakout today, so it's going to be very important. If these numbers miss, we might see it dip back under 200, but if they end up hitting, we could end up seeing seeing Tesla pop off in a good way. But of course, it's kind of like playing earnings. It's like flipping a coin with this.
For situations like this one, the key thing to remember is that news is very subjective. Whether the delivery data comes in better than expected or worse than expected, or any way you put it, it doesn't really matter all that much compared to how people perceive the news and trade off of it. For example, all the time we see stocks report earnings, and sometimes the earnings are good and the stock falls. Sometimes the earnings are bad and the stock rises. And it's not really important about, at least in the short-term sense, what the earnings actually are. It's more so about how everyone else perceives it. So going into Tesla tomorrow, keep in mind that, it's going to be about riding that momentum, and I guess you could say taking advantage of the short-term imbalance of supply and demand. So looking at Tesla tomorrow, just keep that in mind, go into it with a neutral perspective, and then just trade the price action as it progresses. So either way, keep Tesla close on watch, because it should have some pretty good volatility and movement. But Tom, shifting to the market overall for 1 second, we can see that July historically has been a pretty good time for the market. We could see one of the key things that has made this up is that as we look at, you could say, data going all the way back to 1950, this, I guess you could say, 2-week segment for July has been exceptionally strong. But one of the main reasons for that is not that it is just full of giant green days, but more so it just doesn't really fall. So you could see, specifically this 2-week segment for July, there, at least historically speaking, aren't any giant green days like we see sometimes in November, or even like the end of November, and certain periods of the end of December as well. It's just more so super consistent, which is worth keeping in mind going into not only tomorrow, but even the next couple of days and the next week or so. And if we shift over to this next chart here, we can see that the first half of July is actually the best 2-week segment of the market of the entire year. So it goes to say a lot, but I think the best way to, I guess you could say, take advantage of a historical statistic like this one is to keep in mind that, yes, the market normally doesn't explode to the upside during this time. It's just very strong and consistent. So like if we do see, let's say, dips, and let's say we see the market hold those dips in a strong way, kind of like what we saw today, it'll be important to keep in mind that this is like a historically strong period of the year, and even more so when we do look at SPY, like let's say over like the past couple of weeks or so on a daily chart, we can see that the SPY or the market overall hasn't been moving in that crazy of a way. But when you look at like individual stocks by themselves, that's where a ton of the volatility has actually been at. And, you know, when you look at stocks like Chewy or Tesla or Apple today, I think that serves as a prime example of that point. So basically going into tomorrow and even like the next week to 2 weeks, keep a very, very close eye on the few stocks that are showing the most strength each day. You know, I think that is where like almost all of the opportunity is in the short term.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that actually play out pretty well over the past few weeks, right? Like we've been seeing some nice moves out of the individual stocks. And, you know, I'm not going to say that the SPY hasn't been great either, right? Like it did actually come up and retest the all-time high last week before falling off. And that was one hell of a crazy move on Friday. You know, it ran up, hit that high, and then ended up coming all the way back down. And now it's back into this flat point where it's been at for the past couple weeks. But we go look at some of those individual stocks like Amazon, Apple, and others, and they've actually been moving pretty well. So, you know, we've been seeing that play out, and I think that for the next few days and couple weeks, continue to do that. It's going to be very important. I know a lot of people out there, Mike, they don't really want to adapt, right? But some of these stocks you don't even have to adapt on. Like they've been doing so well, like Apple, for example. You know, you're just continuing to look for the breakouts. So it's been an awesome time to be a trader, right? I'm sure a lot of people have been really happy over the past few months with some of the price action that we've been seeing, and today was no shortage of that. You know, there were opportunities all across the board.
There we go. And then heading into tomorrow, we can't forget that we have the big man, Jerome Powell, coming back. So, Tom, what time is Jerome speaking, and what is the event surrounding this?
Yeah, so this isn't the usual type of speech that Jerome Powell gives. This is just going to be a European Central Bank forum, and it's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So right whenever the market opens is whenever Powell's set to, you know, I guess come to this forum. Sometimes these forums are very long. You know, you can see some extended, periods through these forums, but Powell's set to start around 9:30, so keep that in mind. Just watch out for him to say anything about the economy. Other than that, though, there is JOLTS job openings at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then throughout the week, there are some more data points mixed in, like ISM services on Wednesday, and then we do have some stuff Thursday and Friday as well. So it's going to be a big week, Mike, and of course, it's a short one. Don't forget that the market is closed Thursday as well.
And then, Tom, we can't forget about the massive earnings week either. Just kidding. This earnings week is dead as can be. Basically, there's a lineup on the screen right now. I would say the biggest stock of the week is STZ before open on Wednesday, but it's about as dead as you can find for earnings. So before we get into some actual setups for tomorrow, Tom, we can't forget about the most important SPY levels either. So what should we watch out for?
Yeah, today there was actually a lot of hits off the levels that we were looking at over the past few days. So I'm still watching 544 and 543 very closely. I talked about this in last night's video, Mike. This support range has been very important on the SPY. I'm circling it in blue right now. And once again, that ended up holding up as really good support today, as that was pretty much the low of day on the SPY. And then we even touched 544 around close before popping back up. So to the downside, that's really what I'm watching there. Past there, I'll be watching for 540. That'll be the next major level. To the upside, I really do like 545.50 to 546 as major resistance. There were multiple hits there today, and it failed to break out. So if it breaks that, then I'll be watching for 547. But that's what I'm looking at for the SPY for tomorrow, Mike. We did just have that big double top too, up around 550. And if we do see stocks pop off tomorrow, that'll be a pretty big talking point, probably that double top up there.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get right into the good stuff then, which are some setups and predictions for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching very closely is CMG, and it is to the downside. I've been talking about this stock for the past couple trading days now to the downside, and it has been making new lows, which is great to see, but I'm still bearish on it going forward. The stock is overextended quite a bit, and the momentum is finally shifting, especially after its recent stock split. The bearish price action has only been getting stronger and stronger as well, which is good to see. So I'm going to continue to look at CMG in a bearish way, but what will be more important than anything else with a stock like this one is the type of price action it has intraday. While I am bearish on this stock, it does not mean it has to fall tomorrow. I'm looking at it on like a multiple day basis and like even a multiple week basis as well. And the main thing I want to see is continuous pressure on its lows and not many very big pops back to the upside. The more bearish the price action stays, the better the setup will become. So either way, CMG is on my radar.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's right on that 60 support. I'll definitely be watching it very closely to the downside over the next couple days and couple of weeks. With that split, it definitely didn't go the way a lot of traders were hoping. I know a lot of people were pretty bullish on that, and splits can go either way a lot of the times. We've seen them go up and we've seen them go down. In this case, it's actually moving down after the split happened. With my first stock today, I'm looking at Tesla to the upside, and Tesla's actually on a pretty major level here. So if we look at the book map, you can see that 213 was pretty major on Tesla today, ended up being right at the top. So shout out the book map there. We could see there were a few levels that ended up breaking, but once we hit 213, there was pretty solid rejection back down, and Tesla was not able to break back out above there. So if we see a break above 213, I'll keep looking at them to the upside. We do also have those delivery numbers that are set to come out tomorrow as well. So keep that in mind with Tesla. There's no specific dates, but it's usually on the 2nd of each month. And I also want to look at Tesla really quick on the daily, because there's actually like the mother of all trend lines with Tesla right now. And it's actually very close right as these delivery numbers are coming out. If these numbers end up being bad and we see a big rejection on Tesla, that would be a perfect hit on the trend. If we see it go well, we might start to see a pretty good breakout, which we haven't seen in a long, long time. So I really like looking at this with Tesla. It is a major spot, and it's also right around that $200 level as well.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is Mara, M-A-R-A, to the upside. This one had a great day today, and this is one of the, I guess you could say, loved crypto miners by many retail traders. But basically, they had good price action today. They moved in a momentum-filled way, and they're definitely on my radar for a potential continuation. But again, the main thing with this one will just be a continuation of this bullish price action. I want to see a lot of pressure on recent highs. I want to see the stock moving in a meaningful way, and I want to see the stock just holding up in a good way as well. For example, if this stock opens tomorrow in a fine way, but it's just like super choppy and all over the place, it won't really be worth playing. Whereas if it opens up tomorrow and it just puts a lot of pressure on its highs, and it's just moving in like a momentum filled way, and there's like a lot of attention and volatility towards it, that is where the opportunity is with this one. Looking at Mara, you could especially say on the daily chart, when this thing does trend and move with momentum, it does move in a pretty strong way, but you need that, true buying pressure to be there in order to justify a trade with this one. So either way, keep Mara close on your radar.
Yeah, the daily chart's pretty wild with Mara. Whenever it starts to pop off, it can go on some pretty insane runs, so I'll definitely keep it on the radar for tomorrow and even the next few days as well. It's looking pretty awesome here in the short term. With my next play, I'm looking at Bank of America. The banks actually did pretty well today, and I thought that they moved up pretty well, especially early on around open. Some of them did start to fall off around close, like JP Morgan, but I'm looking at Bank of America to the upside. If it can get back above this $40.10 resistance, then I'll be looking at it back up. I do like this $40 mark it's at, and I want to see a solid breakout and a re-break. And whenever you go to the daily chart, Bank of America is right there. If it starts to break above this resistance, that'll be a pretty good breakout opportunity here.
All right, sounds good. Well, Tom, I think it's now about that time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Apple to the upside.
AAPL, pretty crazy stock today. If it ends up breaking above 217.60, just above that high of day, then watch it up.
All right, with the next one, we have Palantir also to the upside.
Yeah, Palantir had a great day today. It was up 2%. I will say it wasn't the best price action because it fell down at open, but it's right at the 26 resistance. So if it breaks there, watch them up.
All right, and then with the last one, we have CCL for both directions.
Yeah, the cruise lines were nuts today. CCL ended up falling off quite a bit. If they break under 1745, then keep watching them down. But if they end up re-breaking back above 18 even, then watch them back up.
Perfect. So we have the upside level for a potential move higher. We have the downside level for a potential move lower. CCL, PLTR, and AAPL are on watch for potential moves only if they break the levels Tom listed. We want to see strong, powerful, consistent price action. And again, if these stocks do have good momentum and price action tomorrow, keep them on watch for potential day trades. But if they do not break the levels Tom listed, then do not feel the need to force these setups. We want strong, consistent price action, and the stronger the price action is, the better the setups become. But it is also now about that time for today's $540,000 big money trade, and we are looking at ticker symbol PTON, Peloton. And I'm sure many people remember this stock as one of the pandemic powerhouse stocks that was just leading the market at the time, but it has since fallen from heaven and is now basically on the verge of bankruptcy. So looking at Peloton, this stock, again, has been pretty rough, but the big money is looking to take a shot with this one as they put around $540,000 into the 4 strike call options that expire on September 20th of 2024. This goes without saying, but this big money trade is definitely riskier than most. Basically, a stock like this one has a lot of potential to go crazy, but it would need something substantial to, I guess you could say, light that fire. Looking at Peloton, the sentiment is as bad as you could imagine for it, but if they do have some, big news come out, or if some other bigger company does show interest in acquiring them or something like that, that can be game changing. But again, that is where the risk comes into play. So either way, this is the big money trade here. There is potential, but it's a risky one.
Yeah, it's been interesting with Peloton over the past couple of years to see what's been going on with them. I really hope that they end up eventually selling to somebody. I know in the past there's been like a lot of rumors with them and exploring deals and etc. So I'm kind of hoping something like that gets done. But at the end of the day, it's very interesting to see this one. It's a $540,000 big money play. It expires in September. So, there is a little bit of time, like a couple months here, not a ton. But, if we do start to see like this $2.80 to $3 support hold up, this will end up being pretty good. It's the 4 strike calls, and like, let's say it rips above 4, gets closer to 5. This will be fantastic. So, and looking at Peloton, Mike, like whenever it moves, it has some pretty good runs. Even if it only moves for a few days, sometimes that these moves up can be pretty significant. Like off this lower support, it ran up 160% back in January of 23. And, we've seen a lot of other scenarios where, we've seen Peloton start to move up a little bit more as well. So it's a very interesting stock, and it has a lot of movement, which is kind of enticing sometimes for these big money plays, especially ones on these riskier stocks, so to say.
There we go. So keep a close eye on this one going forward. But as we look at the market as a whole, as we all know, this week will be a short one because of the holiday. So the market will be closed on Thursday, and it will close at 1 p.m. Eastern times on Wednesday. So it'll be an early close. Let's really make sure to deploy smart, disciplined, healthy trading habits this week. And more specifically for this week, let's really focus on where the money's flowing. We know that SPY, just from looking at it now and also looking at historical data going all the way back to 1950, that SPY isn't set to do anything too crazy, not only over like these next couple days, but like the next week or so. So what'll be more important than almost any other point of the year is to adapt to that and really follow the individual stocks rather than SPY, and just follow where the money's flowing. Again, today, Tesla had a lot of that great price action. Apple did as well. Chewy did as well, but in the downside direction. So let's keep that in mind going into tomorrow, and let's also keep in mind that, as always, to have a plan before you enter any trade, have stop losses, but even more importantly, respect them, follow the money, and just trade with a clear mind and, and trade in a confident way as well. I see many people who, just go into the market each day just looking to place a trade just for the sake of placing a trade. But remember, if there are no opportunities that the market is presenting to you, don't feel the need to risk your hard-earned money into something that might not be worth the risk. So let's, continue to trade in a smart, disciplined, long-term oriented way. And if you guys are into short-term trading, you have to check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. It is the spot to be. It's the Stocked Up trading floor. Basically, you could chat with Tom and myself all day long, get full access to all of our bots, join our weekly live events, and access quite literally everything you need as a short-term trader. Today, we had our Surge bot crush it with some AMD put options that were alerted at $158 each, and they popped all the way up to $349 each. So that was like 120% in a very short period of time. So that was great to see. But even our SM bot crushed it as well with some Microsoft call options that popped up by over 200%, Tesla call options that popped up by 145%. Dell call options that popped up by 154%, and many others. So get in on the action. It'll be that first link in the description in the comments down below. We do have a pretty great sale right now if you use coupon code Big Money for the yearly plan. We do not do sales often, so if you want in, now's the time. And once you lock in that price, you'll have it reserved no matter how high the price goes in the future. So definitely keep that in mind. But Tom, I'm excited for the rest of the week. And while you're still in the Discord, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Chuck, who said, "I wish I would have stayed longer, but a win is a win. First day on the trading floor," and he did a great job with AMD. So keep up all the great work there. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single video we make, takes us a couple hours to make, but we really focus on, talking about everything you need to know about the market, and our goal is to have it done in like 20 to 25 minutes or less per video. Sometimes we go more on the longer end of that, but definitely consider joining the Stocked Up crew by subscribing. And besides that, let's have an amazing week in the market.